Hello, everyone. Welcome back to LFS Podcast, the place where we break down the world of fire safety, life systems, and everything in between. I'm your host, Courtney, and today we've got a very special guest with 15 years of experience. Ferdinand, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Courtney. Thanks a lot. It's always good to be here and then discussing about another important topic in the fire industry. I'm overall very, very good. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, today we're going to be going to a few things, and we're going to be talking about the changes from BS5839 Part 1 2017 to BS5839 Part 1 2025. There's actually been a lot in the update, but we're going to focus on three major changes that will impact installers, maintainers, designers, and end users. So I think we should start off with a pretty big one, and it is talking about missing a zone plan and calling it a variation. Ferdinand, talk us through this.
Yeah. And this is a quite big one. It was. I mean, previously it was all right to have no zone plan. It wasn't all right, but you get a lot of engineers simply putting this down as a variation. But then BS5839 Part 1 2025, it's very clear about this one. So it says a zone plan is a must. Now, you have some exemptions about this zone plan, but again, reality, you would not have a place without a zone plan now, because unless the place is just one zone and one story, which is very unlikely. And also, any places that any sites with sleeping accommodation, you got to have a zone plan.
Yeah, that is a big one, and I think that the industry has been moving in that direction, and now it's written clear in the standard, so it's not optional, and that it has to be a recommendation that is mandatory to have now.
Correct.
I think the next one I actually want to go into is that has sparked a little bit of debate, is the pink earth sleeving, which is now a recommendation for all fire alarm installers.
Yeah.
Ferdinand, why is this happening?
Yeah, that's right, Courtney. This is another important changes, and that's been introduced into BS5839 Part 1 2025. Now, there's something called functional earth and protective earth. So the clause 28.2 at BS5839 Part 1 2025 is mandates that the functional earth conductors in a fire alarm wiring to be identified either with a pink sleeving or marked as FE. Now, it's not practical to do FE, so it has to be a pink sleeving. Now, this comes from BS 5671, which is the UK wiring regs, which in a table 51 requires the functional earth to be colored pink. Now, the main reason for this is to avoid confusion. So you really want to see the difference between the functional earth and the protective earth. Functional earths are the ones that are normally used. Services like, just to prevent interference, allow certain equipments to work like fire alarm. So that's the whole point about this one. So going ahead, the earth need to be in pink sleeve.
Yeah. So pretty much it's now a recommendation, which means engineers need to be consistent with that throughout all installations moving forward.
Of course, yeah. I mean, if they have any future audit due, then they expect it to have or demonstrate to prove that they're using pink sleeve for earthing.
Yeah. And then moving on to our third change, which is the addition of the false alarm notice labels, which should be placed on or adjacent to the CIEs that are connected to the ARC. Ferdinand, can you just walk us through and let us know why has this been an addition?
Well, I think this is because just to avoid confusion. So a lot of places when you don't have a false alarm notice, it's quite difficult for you to instantly know whether the panel is connected to an ARC or not. So in BS5839, clause 14.22, address this problem. So if there is a functional link provided, and there's a link between the panel and the ARC, and then they're expecting you to have a false alarm notice. So that's instantly tell the engineer there's a connection to an ARC and it's live.
I think this is a great change that they've added in, just to not have any confusion and also be able to notify the premises management, but also any maintenance engineer or installer that will be working in that building itself.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, ideally, you would have all this information in your database before you go to the site. But in reality, you have different contractors working. There's a possibility you might just take over a site and you may have a very limited understanding and information about the site. So this is going to be handy. This is really going to help the engineer.
And to take us into another real world challenge, with the release of BS5839 Part 1 2025, Ferdinand, are building owners expected to remove old fire alarm cable and devices?
Well, it's a quite interesting question, Cagney. The simple answer is no, unless your fire alarm contractor wants you to spend more money, right? But there are some strong wording around this area in BS 5839 Part 1 2025, where it says if there is a modification to the system or if you're installing a new system, then of course you have to remove the old cabling and also the devices. Or in places where you cannot do that, you have to clearly label them so that people know these devices are not in use. But there's nothing says that you have to go and remove this device. If the system is working and is in perfect condition, you don't need to worry about removing the old devices or the cable.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for that, Ferdinand. And that's a wrap for our breakdown of the changes of BS 5839 Part 1 2025, or at least the big three that we've gone through here today. Huge thank you to Ferdinand for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and it's always my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the LFS Podcast.